Storytelling has been around ever since humans figured out how to communicate via language. We've seen it throughout history in many forms. Old texts such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, oratory stories such as the Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime, and even today we've probably seen storytelling in the form of YouTube videos. It's probably one of the few things that remains consistent throughout various human cultures. Stories have this power to elicit many different emotions. It can motivate us, make us feel depressed, and even persuade us in a certain way. In this video, we will explore the science of storytelling. Psychologists have coined the term narrative transportation. It is described as a state where a person is completely absorbed in a story. This is where all the mental processes are focused on the story as people's attention, emotions, and imagery are concentrated on the events occurring in the narrative. It seems familiar to many of us when we are reading a book. We don't feel like we're in our own room anymore. We feel as though we're being transported in the world of the story. Although this has been a past interpretation of narrative transportation, a more recent interpretation suggests that transported readers are more likely to integrate their own experiences with narrative events. fMRI studies have concluded that in the brain, the posterior medial cortex and the anterior insula is responsible for understanding the meaning of stories and the meanings they produce. In another experiment conducted by the National Library of Medicine, it determined that the posterior medial cortex's functional connectivity changes as a result of narrative transportation. Humans also have the ability to empathize and attribute living concepts to non-living things. The understanding of another's mental state, beliefs, and emotion is what is known as the theory of mind. In 1944, researchers showed participants an animation of a pair of triangles and a circle moving around a square. When asked what was happening, they reported information about the animation as if it was a real-life scene playing. For example, one of the participants said that the circle was chasing the triangles. It is a cognitive ability that has served humans for generations, crucial for social and communal living. We've used it for learning and developing relationships in society. When we started evolving to live in bigger groups, telling and enjoying stories became crucial to our social cognition. You see, information was usually spread throughout storytelling. It was often used as a medium to pass down warnings, traditions, and more. Don't go into the forest. Aeons ago, a child was eaten by a lion. This heirloom has been passed down from generation to generation. You get the idea. Even nowadays, it is estimated that people spend most of their time telling personal stories and gossiping. Stories have the ability to make us pay more attention. When we hear a story, the neurons in the brain fire at the same pattern as the speaker in a process called neural coupling. Basically, the listener's brain activity mirrors the storyteller's brain activity. Neural coupling activity can increase when the story is more engaging. Storytellers often use techniques to activate neural coupling better. For example, storytellers can use more descriptive language, they can give characters relatable problems, and create suspense and tension in characters. When we remember stories, we know it can be made up of many different components. With these different components, our brain can release different chemicals. Cortisol is released when our attention is drawn to something interesting, and when we anticipate an outcome in the story, dopamine is released, which activates arousal. Marketers use the concepts of neural coupling frequently in order to ensure their audience elicits a specific emotion. Stories have the ability to persuade people as well. For example, stories can often flush out the part of the brain that logically questions information. By directing to a particular stimuli in the story and inducing a positive emotion, the listener is less aware of the negative thoughts that can creep into their brain. There is a principle called the peer principle of persuasion. This is where people believe an outcome will work for them because it works for someone else. Many researchers have identified that since our brains are constantly flooded with information and data daily, they've realized that effective communication goes beyond just sharing information. They've also realized that at times, facts aren't usually enough to convince people because people can be skeptical when facts are presented. Business people nowadays rely on storytelling as a means to persuade audiences. As stories are easy to process and understand, this means people are more likely to be persuaded, especially if the story is delivered with conviction. So, the science behind storytelling is intriguing, and it will be interesting to see how storytelling as a medium evolves in the future. Thanks for watching.